Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It is my hope and prayer that this video is going to find you guys in good health. Personally, I'm fine. Kisumu is also fantastic. Maybe you let me know where you are watching the video from. Yesterday, I listened attentively to the IEBC chairperson, Wafula Chebukati, and paid close attention to Marjan Hussein Marjan, the CEO of IEBC. And I have one message to Raila Odinga. IEBC is out to punish you. And I also have a message to President Ruto and Uhuru Kenyatta. If you don't monitor IEBC, you are going to be embarrassed. For those who followed the interview, which was conducted by media houses, Wafula Chebukati and his body language appeared or came out as people who are not ready for the elections. Marjan Hussein Marjan came out and sold himself out. He talked of Mama Mboga almost 5 times during the interview, not by coincidence. And for those who've been following the IEBC, it is clear on this side they are. I want to give you several cases. Let us begin with the manual register. According to the Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, IEBC is the only body mandated to conduct the elections in this country. The elections are actually projected or expected to be free, fair, transparent, and verifiable. So there's the register, because the elections in this country is largely both manual and electronic. Which means when you wake up in the morning on that particular day, you go to the polling station, you go into a booth, you are identified, then you are given physical papers, then you dump those physical papers into the ballot boxes. Later on, the physical papers will be counted. But in an ideal situation, what's supposed to happen is that you are supposed to be identified. The identification is normally via electronic, which is the best. Sometimes your name might be missing or something. In the previous cases, once you are identified through electronic register, then your name will also be checked against that particular manual register, and then it will be crossed. So that if in a polling station there are close to 700 people, then the electronic register should be able to show the number of people who voted. So that if out of 700, 650 voted, it should be that. Then on the manual register, those shall have been crossed, those who voted. So that by the time of, let's say, around 4, Kenyans should be updated on the projections, either the percentage. IEBC is saying they're not going to use the manual register. And the explanation they are giving, they can't themselves explain. But for me, that's not the issue. My main worry is that what will happen if in the register there are 700 people, 650, I'm talking of electronic, 650 have voted, but then someone somewhere decided that in each polling station, they're going to use algorithm. And that algorithm is going to add only 10 votes to Kenya Kwanza and say deduct 3 to Raila Odinga. If that is done across the country, it's game over. And that's why Raila Odinga is talking of the manual register, so that it will be confirmed that in this particular polling station, these people voted, they were identified, but only 2 people were not identified electronically, and therefore they were identified manually. So IEBC is saying no manual register, and they are in agreement with Kenya Kwanza. Let us go to the running mate photos. The truth of the matter is that politics is a game of perception. And the other truth is that a lot of things normally influence people to vote. When the issue of the running mates and their photos came up, Kenya Kwanza objected. The second people who objected were the IEBC. Why were they objecting? The truth of the matter is that because we have 4 presidential candidates, if the 4 presidential candidates were allowed to have photos of their running mates, the only man who will appear on that would be Rigathi. And that's something they didn't want. The other fact is that if all the 4 presidential running mates images were to be used, then it was likely to persuade some people to vote for Martha Karua and not Rigathi Gachagua, the women and maybe the people of the mountain. And even lastly, and this has been said severally, if that was to happen, then the face of Rigathi Gachagua would scare some voters against voting for him. So IEBC is in complete agreement with Tanga Tanga on that. I think the court also issued some ruling on that. Then go and look at Johnson Sakaja's clearance. The court order came late, but IEBC had already printed his name. What about Sonko? Sonko had stopped IEBC, and he received the orders from going ahead with the Mombasa list. His name was missing. The court already made a ruling, but there are questions there. What about the printing of ballot papers without the Gazette notice? Ideally, someone can actually go to court. And the nature of our courts in the presidential petition, and claim that the ballot papers were actually printed without a Gazette notice. What was the hurry? Wafula Chebukati and the team gave reasons that probably the government printer delayed. I don't want to assume that, I don't want to take that as a serious matter, but I'm just saying, because we can't rule out possibility of someone going to court. Let us go to the other issue, the relaying of results. We've held elections in this country 2013, 2017 through Kemskate. This time round, during those elections, the results were relayed to Kenyans live by IEBC. No media houses were allowed inside the tallying centers, so that even if you are a media house and you are present and you count the votes are counted and results announced, then you are not supposed to announce those results. The only people who are supposed to do that were the IEBC. But IEBC is now saying that for this particular election, we are going to go to the polls. Then results will be announced. What will be submitted to the National Tallying Center is the results. But down here, what will happen is that media houses will be allowed to post. Now, what will happen, for example, if someone decides to mess around? Yeah, that can work in favor of Raila Odinga because media houses are with him. Media houses can collude and just announce results. But let us have IEBC declare the results, not media houses. What will happen? Because in this country, we've seen how elections are conducted, where people just announce their own results. What will happen if a media house decides to announce their own results, another media house announce their own results? But for me, I would support that. When something is good, let media houses cover. IEBC made a ruling in the last election that nobody was going to be within the vicinity of the polling centers, such that after casting your vote, you go home. What has now changed? Then there is the issue of returning officers. Serious issue. And the way Wafula Chebukati and Marjan were responding to it, it was like a small matter. You know, there is no way you can go to an election. Let's say Raila Odinga going into this election with questions about returning officers, that out of 42 Kenyan tribes, 19, and they're distributed. 19 are from the Kalenjin nation, and they're distributed strategically in certain regions. What will happen if on that particular day someone will incite Kenyans against them? What will happen if these guys will be under instructions to do certain things and the locals will reject? IEBC should consider, take that matter seriously, and even, because they still have that opportunity, they can transfer them. If you don't want this one here, okay, let's make a few of the changes. At some point, there was this IEBC technical committee. UDA and Kenya Kwanza brigades opposed that committee. Wafula Chebukati led IEBC in opposing that committee. So it's going to be interesting. And the most interesting thing was the involvement of the cabinet secretaries on campaigns. In the last election, Wafula Chebukati was very clear when NASA complained that cabinet secretaries are the only government officials who are exempted from campaigns. Then all the cabinet secretaries went outside there and campaigned. For this election, Wafula Chebukati had a different idea. According to him, these guys are not supposed to campaign. I remember that was in 2016. Sometimes last year. And I remember Kenyans reminding him about 2016, 2017 election. But why would Wafula Chebukati frustrate Raila Odinga or appear to work against Raila Odinga? I have only 3 reasons, then I'll leave. Number one, I think it's his closeness with the DP. There is a relationship which didn't start yesterday between Wafula Chebukati and William Ruto. I don't think Wafula Chebukati is more closer to the senator for Bungoma, but his link to Ruto can be traced. And that can actually persuade him, even if he were not really to do certain things, the fact that they have that history. Number two, is the ghost of 2013 and 2017 elections, specifically 2017, which Wafula Chebukati presided over. Raila Odinga was so hard on Wafula Chebukati and Hussein Marjan. These guys never forgave Raila Odinga. So now it's payback time. They're now actually paying Raila Odinga. And lastly, I think the way IEBC was recruited in the previous election, and the fact that new commissioners were brought on board, and these new commissioners are perceived to be with Raila Odinga, I think Wafula Chebukati is now just doing these things the way he wants, just to prove a point. I don't know what you think. That's my take. Thank you guys, and may you have a good day. Bye-bye.